Now, I'm excited to have two very special guests with us. They're part of our church family, and I've had the privilege to know them for well over a decade, maybe 2 decades. And it is Jeff and Cathy Charlesworth. Thank you for coming along. It's great to have you both here.
Great to be here.
How many years have I known you? Is it 20?
It's over 20.
Over 20 years.
We first
Did I have hair then? No,
Oh, yeah.
I did. Okay.
A little bit.
Little bit. Fuzz.
We first came November 1995.
November 1995. Tell the story about how you came.
Well, we were coming over on a working holiday from Canada.
From Canada. So in case you didn't know, they are Canadians.
Yep. And we went to church in Canada,
Yep.
to a Catholic church.
Yeah.
And we were from a small town of 500 people.
The name of that town?
Somerset.
Somerset.
Yep.
I thought it was that funny name. Waskahatchee something. No?
That's the name of the state or province, Manitoba.
Oh,
Somerset,
Manitoba. I knew there was some funny name. So Manitoba is the
Province.
province.
Yeah.
And is a province like a state?
Same
Yes.
thing.
Okay. How many provinces are in Canada?
There's 10 provinces and 3 territories.
Right. So a couple more than us.
Yeah.
All right. That's good. So Manitoba is the state province.
Yep.
Yeah.
And your town is?
Somerset.
And how many people in your town?
500.
500. Is it like out in the wilderness?
It's
Farm country.
farm country.
Farming town.
Do you have, like, over here, we have a lot of wallabies and critters. Do you have, like, moose and things out there? Or?
There can be moose, mostly
wildlife,
deer.
yeah.
Deer? Okay.
Yeah, a lot of
okay.
deer.
Well, like whitetail?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Did you hunt?
Yeah, I used to do a lot of hunting. I used to do hunting for birds, prairie chickens, and ducks and geese, and then got into bigger animals in the fall, deer and elk and moose, and then fishing, a lot of fishing. So a lot of outdoor activities where we
Wow.
lived. Yeah.
And how cold does it get there?
Oh, it gets very cold. It gets down to 30 below. That's why we moved to Australia. We traded in
30
the 30
below.
below for some 30 above.
Minus
Yeah.
30 Celsius.
Well, 30
minus
below,
40 Celsius.
32 degrees minus 30 is even numbers, right? That's minus 32 our temperature, minus 32 yours is level, I think it is. So it's very cold. It's well truly
Well,
minus.
it's Celsius. I mean, Canada works in Celsius
Celsius
as well.
with-
So
okay, good, okay.
minus 40 would be the extreme, but not.
So
I
what
mean,
would be a
fairly
normal
common.
cold temperature in winter where you were?
Minus 20.
Minus 20 in our temperature.
Yeah, in Celsius.
And how guilty I feel the other week when it was 8 degrees or 7 degrees when I was out for a run thinking it was just freezing. How do you survive in such cold?
Well, if you want to practice, you can just go down to the local Woolies store and walk into the walk-in freezer and live there for a while, and you know what it was like.
So how do you handle our temperatures now? Have you adjusted?
Much better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever been back for Canadian winter?
Yeah, a few times. Yeah,
How did it feel?
cold.
That's a good answer.
Way too cold.
Now, I love the way that I had the privilege of Sandra to meet you, okay? And that was a mutual friend we had at the church, Steve Hogan, had met you in the United States.
That's correct.
And somehow hey, we're coming over. Oh, that's great. Come and meet up.
Yeah.
And so y'all came over in 95 and met up. And he said, pop into church.
Yeah, that's right. We were looking for a church to attend because we attended church in Canada as well.
Yeah.
And he said, come to our church. He says it's
Not quite Catholic.
no, well, I mean, Catholic Church has got all kinds of different
Yeah.
strains of Catholic Church, same as Pentecostal,
That's right. That's
You know?
right. There's charismatic Catholics, so
That's
forth,
right.
so forth.
So ours was more of a traditional Catholic church, but we were certainly, I guess, somewhat familiar with the Pentecostal style of worshiping. So
So how were you familiar with it?
I would think maybe I was born into like an Anglican family.
Yes.
That service was different than the Catholics.
Yes.
And we would see Pentecostal services on TV and in movies and stuff like that.
So what
be
preacher
familiar.
did you ever see on TV, Pentecostal style?
Well, probably saw Billy Graham.
Billy Graham? Okay,
Yeah.
so we wouldn't call him Pentecostal.
No,
We call
little
him
different.
Baptist.
Yeah.
Okay, so Billy Graham. Okay, yeah. So Billy Graham would have been the most out there Christian level you'd seen, thinking
Oh, I would
Pentecostal?
think so.
Oh, probably.
Wow.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so for us, we'd call it Baptist conservative. So
Yeah.
then coming into a we call it spirit-filled church, it would have to be different.
Certainly.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
very much
absolutely
so.
different. Yeah.
And how
Very
old?
much
Your two
so.
daughters. How old were your daughters then?
Yeah.
When we first came, they were 9 and 11.
9 and 11. And how long were you in Australia on that first trip?
9 months.
9 months. And then you decided to come back and go to Bible school here. We won't go into all the details of how it went coming because that's a whole program in itself. So you came back here to go to Bible school. So how do you explain that to your Catholic friends in Canada that you left conservative Catholic, you've come back after 9 months, now you're going back to what we'd call a spirit-filled church to
Yeah.
be in Bible school. How did that go down?
Well, there's no problem. I told all my buddies that, if you recall, at that time, Billy Graham was retiring. So I told everybody Billy Graham's retiring, so look out. Here comes Jeff and Cathy.
Now, and speaking of that, Jeff, because when you
Yeah.
did go to Bible school, and here's an interesting thing, because you've always been in business,
Yeah.
okay? Always in business. In fact, one of my best stories with you, Jeff, is that people don't realize this, but Jeff was or is a pilot.
Yeah.
He even took me in his plane ride, little plane. What sort of plane was that you had?
It's probably, it was a low wing underneath the,
I mean, I'll ask you about a
Probably.
Harley Davidson and then see how you go on that
Yeah,
one, okay? It was an aeroplane, and we
yeah,
sat it together.
probably a
And as
low-wing
it flew,
Piper.
I felt like we're going sideways rather than straight.
yeah, could have been. Yeah.
And this is at Archerfield, you had it.
Yeah.
It wasn't your first one, I'm sure it was your second one.
Yeah, well, we had, I was involved with a group out there,
Yeah.
so we had a couple of airplanes at the time.
What
Yeah.
a life, a couple of airplanes.
Yeah, well, it was within a group, the same
it's
as
okay.
anything else.
And I can remember go out there, and you said, turn back and look. And when I turned back and looked, that's when I felt sick.
Yeah,
But,
you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, turn back and look. I'm
Don't
in
always
trouble.
do what you're told,
There's
yeah.
your house. Look back. Oh, okay, but
Yeah.
and it was great. But what's more interesting, if you don't know Jeff, you've got to have a meal with them and talk to them because they have the best stories. If ever I was on a camping trip and there was a bushfire time, you would be my first pick.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
That's
sitting
awesome.
in that bushfire and having stories, these two would be my first pick. In fact, we did one time, weren't we? We were with
Yeah, we had
the Pottertons and we were with the Proctors and we were with,
It was a family camp.
yeah, in that area there. And that's where you got me those little,
The marshmallow sticks
yes,
from
you're
Canada.
doing those things, yeah. So I still have them. But the fact of the matter is, great stories. So you did, was it crop dusting as a pilot?
Yeah, I did my training, and then at the time there was wasn't very much work in the aviation industry at the time.
Yeah.
So we had to kind of make our own job, and because I had a rural background, I was familiar with agricultural needs and requirements, so I ended up going into crop spraying in Canada. So I did crop spraying and then also did a little bit of flying charter work and survey work and that sort of thing. But I liked the crop spraying work. It was like getting up every morning and going to Disneyland, you know. It was a lot of fun.
You're talking about the rides.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
whenever
that
I
was
think
great.
of flying in Canada, in my limited thinking,
Yeah.
I'm thinking of those planes that land on the rivers or the creeks dropping people off.
Float planes.
Float planes, that's
Yeah.
what I think of.
Yeah.
But obviously, we're talking about crop dusters. So what sort of planes are in the crop dusting ones?
Oh, generally the plane would have a big hopper on it for carrying your chemical that you want to spray.
Yeah.
And some fuel tanks. Some are low wing. Some of them had the wings above and below, so a bi-wing setup. Yeah. So different kinds of Cessnas and Pipers and.
Now,
Yeah.
there's so many stories with you in airplanes, and
Yeah.
I don't have time to go over the stories. I can remember you telling me how you're a partner with Cathy's,
Jeff's uncle.
Jeff's
Oh,
uncle.
yeah, my uncle.
All right, and
Yeah, Uncle
you-
Arnie.
And you
Yeah.
run out of gas flying,
Yeah, yeah,
and you had to
yeah.
do a rough landing.
Yeah, crash landing on
Crash
the road.
landing
Yeah.
on the road.
Yeah.
Then my favorite story, can you take a minute and tell me about the high wires? Can you tell that story?
Yeah, well,
I love this story.
the one day I was out flying out of the Somerset airport where we came from, and I was spraying a field about 10 kilometers away from the airport. So in the morning, start early, 5, 6 in the morning. The air is cool, the plane can take a lot, you know. So I divided up the job that I had to do in about 10 loads, we'll say. And I started off in the morning, took off the first load and flew to the field, sprayed it out, come back, load up for the second one. And which was no problem. But then as the day warms up, because the job took about 3-4 hours to do, the air warms up, the airplane doesn't fly as good anymore with the...
I wouldn't know that.
No, it's just the meteorological conditions affect how the aircraft flies. So as the air warmed up, the airplane didn't want to fly as well anymore, so I had trouble controlling it, you know. And between the controlling the aircraft, I did the wrong thing. The plane was overloaded. Of course, that's what we did in our business. If you don't make any money unless you break the rules once in a while.
Not now.
And so I was flying on about the 7th or 8th load. It was about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. It was a warm day, got up to 30 degrees, plus 30 or whatever. The airplane wasn't flying very well. And between the airport and the field where we were going, there was a slight rise, and on top of that rise was power lines, 250,000.
Not house lines. We're talking about those big, heavy,
big ones, big high lines. 250,000 volts it was. So the line was so two earth wires and then 3 live wires underneath, 5 wires altogether.
Wow.
So as I was flying to the field, the airplane just couldn't do it anymore. The airplane, the engine wasn't strong enough anymore to, like it had been at, you know, when it was cooler, when it was 15 degrees in the morning. And
it doesn't fly very high off the ground.
No, I was only flying 100 feet off the ground to get to where I started the job, and then I would dive down. So I was just high enough to get over the power lines, but then as I hit that rise, the airplane didn't want to rise to get over the power lines. So yeah, the airplane actually started to drop down a little bit, just the way the wind was coming over top of the ridge. And next thing you know, I'm heading straight at eye level into the power lines. And it was not a good situation. You can fly over the wires, you can fly under the wires, but you don't want to fly into the wires. So I was headed straight for those wires. And then I thought, well, I'll try and fly underneath them, you know. But then I was headed straight for one of the posts that was holding the wires up.
Wow.
So that was no good either. So right at the last minute before I got to the wires, I decided to dump my load. So there was an emergency lever on my left-hand side here. So I'd hit the lever forward, which would drop the, we were hauling about 500 gallons, I think it was. So it dropped about 500 gallons out of the airplane. And then, of course, immediately the airplane is lighter, right? So as soon as it's lighter, boom, it pops up. So my plan was it was going to pop up and I would fly over top of the power lines. But unfortunately, it didn't work that way. It popped up just enough to fly directly into the power lines. So I got caught up in power lines like a spider in a spider web.
Wow.
You know, so you know when you hit a spider web or the bugs or whatever, and it's got a little spring like that to it. So I flew into that power line, a little bit of a spring. The airplane started to roll like this, okay, from head to tail over like that. And it caught me. I flipped over like that and also turned me 180 degrees back, so I was pointing the other way. So it was like a slow motion roll, like at Disneyland. I said I like going to Disneyland. So I did a flip like that. I also turned around and ended up coming back exactly the way I was coming, and I landed hard on the ground. Boom, like that. And I looked down, crunch, like that, and I popped up, and I noticed that the airplane was on fire. Oh. That's not another good thing to have.
That's another good thing.
So the 250,000 volts, I should have got electrocuted, you know, but I didn't. And then this fire started, and I'm all, so I thought, well, I better get out of here.
Yeah.
So I opened the door, put the door down, pulled myself out of the airplane like this, and rolled off the wing and ran back to the end of the airplane and then turned around and looked, and the whole thing exploded right at that minute. It had a 40-gallon fuel tank in the top wing just above me like that. So the whole thing went poof in about, I don't know, maybe about 5 to 10 seconds after I landed. And, you know, thank God I had the peace of mind to well, I was fortunate to stay conscious, and then the peace of mind to actually realize I better get out of there in a heck of a hurry.
And probably great you got rid of the pestilence, because that would have ignited, no? Or not?
No, that was a water-based, so that was, it was the fuel that caught on fire. There was about 40 gallons of fuel in there, and that was boom. So it singed my eyebrows.
It would look pretty good now.
Singed my eyebrows, and that was it.
And
so,
your eyelashes.
And my eyelashes. And I
Tell about how you walked back to town.
Yeah, well then
I love this part of the story.
I thought, well, this is a. Cathy had come with me, and the kids were with me back in Canada. And I thought, well, you know, in a small town of 500 people, news travels pretty fast, and they could see this big ball of smoke on the horizon about 5 miles from town. Had power gone off in town
or not?
Power had gone off, power went off.
So it's got their attention.
Yeah, through half the state, you know, power went off. And
it was a major line.
So somebody was...
They were very cranky.
Somebody was traveling down the gravel road in their pickup, ute.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I better get to town until... They're going to figure this out pretty quick. There's a plane crash, and we didn't have cell phones or anything in those days. So I hitched a ride back into town to catch up with Cathy and the girls, just to tell them that that I was okay. Yeah. And Cathy had an interesting experience when that happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us.
I was in the local grocery store, and of course, you know, we're just visiting home for a few weeks, and so visiting with everyone, and what's Jeff doing? And I said, well, you know, it's nice, there's no wind. He's crop spraying and having to play for this holiday, so I hope he's working. Yeah. And then no sooner did I say that than I looked out the door, and Jeff was standing on the sidewalk talking with a buddy, and I said, well, I guess he's not working. I better go check how come. So I walked outside, and he's talking with this buddy, and the buddy says, Jeff, have you heard? Dale crashed his airplane, and it's really serious. Another crop sprayer in the community. And it's really serious, and there's a lot of smoke. Look at the smoke. And Jeff's not saying anything. Yeah. And I'm looking at our buddy who's talking, and I'm looking at Jeff, back and forth. And I look at Jeff, and as he said, his eyebrows are singed, and his eyelashes are singed. And I'm not saying anything. Yeah. And I'm just going, that wasn't Dale who crashed that airplane. Jeff crashed the airplane, and he's not saying anything.
And he is in town.
And he's in town, and he's fine, and it's all good. And all I'm going is, thank you, Lord, again.
Yeah, yeah.
And so then at last, you know, Jeff said, you know what, it wasn't Dale, it was me. And I'm just here letting Cathy see I'm in one piece and it's all okay. Okay, Jeff, that's good. I'm out of here. Like, it was like...
Get away.
He was just like, I'm not staying here. Like, this is not going to be good. And then, you know, I looked at Jeff and, you know, you're okay. Everything's okay. And yes, that's where I was in the smoke. And then I said, does anybody else know you're okay? Yeah. So the girls knew. He went right to the farm where we were staying, and they knew. But I said, do people realize you got out of there? Yeah. We have to go back there now.
We had to go back and face the music. Yeah.
So by that time, there was police, there was fire trucks, there was...
any Mounties?
The power,
Mounties are right jolly on
Mounties are there. We got fire trucks there. We've got hydro there because we
hydro
just...
is like Energex.
The
Energex guys were funny. They showed up with about 3 trucks.
Big ones.
Big trucks to fix these power lines that have gone down. And the guy that showed up on that, driving the truck, he gets there. He jumps out of the truck. He says, who's the pilot that did this? He says, I want to get his autograph. I've never seen this happen before.
You go, hello.
He says, let me take a picture of you. Click, click. He says, my buddies are never going to believe this when I get back to the pub.
We're talking about the grace of God over here. Yeah. I mean, like, here's a funny thing. Well, not funny. They can tell you multiple stories, and there's a far bigger story, but that's another day. I wish you had more of your books reprinted.
Oh, yeah,
You've got to have more of those books done. Yeah. Wouldn't you like to read his book? The stories, you've got to update it. It's incredible. So you actually felt for a while that you're going to go into mission service, the Christian aviation, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, we were going to take Billy Graham's place, you know.
Yeah.
So that was the whole point. So we came over here to go to Bible school for a year or two, and then we were going to do some work with the MAF, the Mission Aviation Fellowship.
Yeah.
So the plan was to do a sort of a remote support role, flying airplanes for people aviation related in Papua New Guinea or in Malaysia or
going
something
up to
like
the
that.
highlands, different areas. Yeah.
So we came over here to prepare ourselves to do that, and then we had some more hiccups along the way, and ended up staying in Bible college, and ended up staying in Australia. So the mission work is sort of still unfinished business. Yeah. Done a little bit, but
here's the funny. Well, we've been together in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Been together in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So, but here's the unusual thing: is we get saved, we're on that journey, and you never quite know how it's going to go. Like God knows the plan, but how does it pan out? How does it work? Because you served in the church, working the area for a number of years, great blessing, and it's just amazing how it all goes. But then you ended up with these Subway stores, right? How many Subway stores did you own?
Well, we had to, we couldn't stay in Bible college forever, so we had to, and we weren't going out on the mission field.
How many times can you graduate, right?
Yeah. So we had to go back into business, right?
Yeah.
So that's
which you understand.
Yeah, so we were in business in Canada, so eventually we ended up going back into business, and we had to get the correct visas to be able to immigrate here and everything. We wanted to call this home. So we ended up going in business in partnership and getting into the Subway restaurants.
Yeah.
So we started out with one store, but the idea right from the beginning, the business plan from the beginning was to develop 20 stores.
Yeah.
It was at the time when Subway was going through some exponential growth here in Australia.
I mean, it was really popular.
Yeah, it was a good time. I mean, we got in just before that growth period, and so we ended up building our 20 stores in
20 stores.
Yeah, in
so
5
I remember
years.
the Queen Street, because I visited you at Queen Street.
Yeah.
There's another
was the
one.
first one.
Yeah, there's another one out at, was it Maruka Way or something out that way?
Yeah,
I forget
we
what it was. I visited out there.
Yeah.
And then you had the other one around Springwood, because I remember Crystal was working out there.
Chatswood and Daisy Hill.
Shared, when they were university, they were.
So you've had them all around. So to 20 stores in partnership, that's like an empire in a way, isn't it? I mean, that's huge. How hard was it to manage 20 stores?
Well,
How impersonal is it?
Yeah, we had 12 stores in the Brisbane area, and then we had 4 stores in the regional area up around Rockhampton and Gladstone, and we had another 4 stores up in Toowoomba and the Darling Downs area.
Wow.
So we actually set it up with a structure a bit like, I often think it was a bit like Jesus did it.
Yeah.
You know, he had a circle of 12 disciples and an inner circle of 3 or 4.
Peter, James, and John. And
so we kind of did the same thing. We had our 12 Subway store managers, and then we had 4 area managers that looked after it for us. So I spent our time, my time, and Cathy spent her time actually in the focusing on those 4 people
developing,
and
training,
the 20 people.
Imparting.
And they in turn then were responsible for a staff of about a little over 300.
We had the 20 stores. We had it divided into 3 areas.
Yep.
So we had 3 area managers.
Yeah.
And they looked after 5 stores, basically 5 stores, 5-6 stores each.
Yeah.
And the 4 of us in partnership, we were divided into 4 different areas. I looked after human resources. Jeff looked after growth and development. Andrew looked after the maintenance and making sure that everything was done to code in all the stores.
Yep.
And
Carrie Lee was in the accounting.
Wow. That's very well laid out.
Yeah.
Very well laid out.
Yeah. It worked well, and then we went on and built another. We did our own thing after that, and did another 12 stores with noodles.
Noodles. Yeah. What was that called?
Red Rock. Red Rock noodles. So that was our own brand, and we ended
still
up.
Going?
There's some of those existing stores still around, but they've changed names.
Yeah.
So we're no longer involved in any of the food business. We got out of it completely. But
before we go to the next level, because this is a great thing about business and leadership, it's not so much the product, it's the ability you have to slide into whatever area.
Oh, absolutely.
So if I was to ask you a question as a couple, what leadership business principle as Christians would you impart to anybody else in regards to what did you learn from those foods, whether it be the 20-odd Subways to Red Rock? What have you learned? What's the biggest lesson you learned in business from that?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, the business skills that anybody learns and practices along the way is very transferable from one industry or one business to the other. And this morning I was reading a daily devotional thing that I do, and the key verse in there was from Proverbs 3, and it says, "Don't lean on your own understanding, trust in the Lord."
3, 5, and 6,
So that's probably a pretty good business. I mean, that's an old truth, right? It's been around for a long time.
Works.
Don't lean on your own understanding. So you have to surround yourself with people that have the expertise in the areas that you need to run the business. You know, I'm not an accountant. I'm not a lawyer. There's a lot of things I don't do very well. So I don't lean on my own understanding. I trust in the Lord, and I gather people around me that have that.
And you staff for your success.
That's right.
Would you say the same thing, Cathy?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, the business that we're in now, we had absolutely no clue how to run. Whatsoever. From a technical perspective.
Well, let's talk about that business. And looking at your shirt, okay, I see Queensland Plastics, tool making, injection molding, and on the other side...
Get a good shot of that for the camera.
I saw that area there, And Cem Jet, which is...
Tree Injector.
Tree Injector.
Which is a brand that we have,
Okay, so you move from the pilot thing to food industry. Can I use that word, food industry? Then you come into the plastics scene, which is
manufacturing.
Manufacturing. And which part of town is that in?
Banyule. Close to the airport.
Close to the airport. It's a huge setup. Okay, monster. And with all of these machines, do you want to elaborate on the size of machines? In any way, or just say,
we have about 1, 2, 3. There's four areas of the business. We have an office area. We have a warehouse. I think it's about 1,000 square meters in the warehouse. Then we have a tool room where the guys design and manufacture molds. And then we have a production room where we have the plastic injection molding equipment. And they're big machines. They would maybe about, the bigger ones are maybe 12, 14 meters long, 2 meters wide, 2 to 3 meters high with the robot on top of it. Big machines, and they manufacture we manufacture a variety of components for a variety of different industries. Primarily,
like what?
Well, primarily we're a contract manufacturer, okay? So we supply products, as an example, that go into the automotive industry, okay? So we work for second and third tier suppliers that supply into the automotive industry. We're doing some jobs. One of the jobs we're doing is a roll track cover. So on the back of your ute, stylized ute, you have a horizontal cover on it that rolls up with a little motor. Think of a garage door. Instead of vertically, it's horizontally there.
The cover lid of the utility.
Right. So this customer that we're working with on that, they have a plant, a manufacturing facility in Thailand that pumps out up to maybe 30,000 a year of these roll track covers, and then they distribute them all around the world to Toyota dealers, Ford, all the Mitsubishi, Tritons, everybody. So we do that. So that's an example. We supply 30 or 40 components that go into that that product. But we also supply into the building industry. So we supply a lot to manufacturers of windows and doors. Both nationally and internationally. And We do a lot. We do some for Nestle, Purina, a big multinational company.
You also had mining stuff you're doing
We do
as well?
a lot into the mining. We do for electrical, some plumbing stuff, so a lot. So we do a lot of work for other companies, and then we also have some of our own products, some consumer products.
So what is your product?
Well, that's what this Cem Jet Tree Injector is. So it's an unusual type of thing, but
I'm just curious to know what this is.
Yeah.
Should have brought one.
So is it actually anything to do about trees?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's...
I just didn't know what to say.
So if you went to the doctor and you wanted to get...
You needed an injection?
You need an injection, they'd put it in your arm and inject something good into you.
Yeah.
Well, they do the same thing for trees. So an arborist will inject something good that the tree wants.
Wow.
So the product is a 20 milliliter injector. So they'll drill a little hole in the tree,
needle.
like a syringe, like a big overgrown syringe. Yeah. They use them in the vets would use them too to inject into animals and that sort of thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Not like a chihuahua, is it?
Big ones.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But these are for trees. So originally it was developed for the avocado industry. Avocados in Australia have got a big problem with root rot or phytophthora in the roots.
Yeah.
So they inject in that application. They would inject a mixture of phosphoric acid.
Is it a needle?
Yeah.
Yes.
So they stab the needle
Plastic needle.
Drill a hole in the tree.
Pre-drill a hole.
Pre-drill a hole. Put it in.
Put the needle in. There is a spring. It's spring loaded.
Yeah.
So you drop your chemical into the needle.
Yeah.
Lock it. Drill your hole into the tree. Put it into the tree, and then release the lock.
Yeah.
And there's the spring allows the liquid to go in at a very regulated rate, so it doesn't damage the tree.
Yeah.
And the tree actually pulls the liquid in at its own rate.
I've never heard of trees
Needing
being ejected.
Yeah.
Injected.
And
I've
never heard of it before. I mean,
and it's very environmentally friendly too, because normally they would spray, right? They might spray, foliar
from the
so
spray.
you're still working with the crops.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so-
I like that. Yeah, and
It's the farming part of us.
we sell that.
It's the country.
We sell that tree injector into
all over the world.
all over the world, every continent, and
So
probably.
who thought of it?
The guy that invented it, he's retired now, but he invented it about 35 years ago. The company Queensland Plastics manufactured it for him for the last 20 years, 25 years, something like that. And then when old Gus retired out of the tree injecting, we were already making it, so we just took over and took it over and started marketing
Is it working well?
Yeah, we sell probably 40,000 a year around the world
yeah.
and all over the place.
That is amazing. Now, time is running short because I can see we have to do a part 2 with you guys. And maybe we can next time bring along a tree injector.
Yeah, bring a
See
tree
what I'd like to
injector.
see it. But, you know, with all of this pandemic that's happened, I personally, I mean, we're a church, but we have a business side as well. We've got staff, we've got to pay wages. And for me personally, everybody, my wife's fear was, will we have a church? My fear was, will I be able to pay staff? Do I have to let staff go? By God's grace, we've held on to staff. The generosity of people, the mercy of God, and some government helps, only the mercy of God. But that was my fear. And it's reinventing ourselves. Thus, here we are together. Sandra and I are involved in 9 programs a week, which people ask, do you have anything to do during the week right now? Do we have anything to do? I can't wait till things get back to normal. But we enjoy what we do still. But, you know, so for yourselves, I'm excited about the little thing you brought along.
Oh, okay, I brought along one project that we're working on.
This is a result of this coronavirus, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, we were no different than you.
Yeah.
We support 20 families.
Yes.
And
That's what burdens you, isn't it? People don't realize
we take that
the
very
burden.
much to heart. We don't want to see anybody go. And, I mean, we didn't know the car industry, nobody's buying cars, nobody's, you know, that kind of thing. There's no building going on. And those are our 2 biggest areas. We have a lot of sub areas, but those are our 2 largest areas.
What about tree injectors? Still doing that?
They are still doing that.
Because they tell us that stuff is... Do normal people have that for their trees?
Absolutely.
They do, normal people.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'll sell you a tree injector.
What, for a mango tree?
Yeah,
Yes.
matrates.
Yeah, but can I get, I don't know what formula? You don't sell the formula.
We don't sell the consumable product that goes into it.
You're going to
But
make sure I know how to get the thing to go on my
That's right.
mango tree.
you can
That's
get them
right.
down the street at the Garden Supply Center.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Hey, I
Yeah.
might be interested. Drilling my mango trees. And
Yep.
That's
if I get
absolutely.
good mangoes, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so this is something that we've been working on when the COVID started.
Yeah.
One of our customers, actually one of the automotive customers, they
So an automotive customer realized they needed to diversify.
yeah, they lost 75-80% of their sales pretty well overnight.
So they had to diversify. Okay.
Yeah, big company, global company, offices all over the world.
Right.
So they had to lay off a bunch of people and cut their workforce down and go
Yeah.
3 days a week and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, huge.
So what they do is they do a lot of signage. So they have they extrude plastic into sheets. Okay, so they have that facility. They're the biggest extruder in Australia.
Yeah.
And at the Woolies and at the McDonald's stores, they're putting up the
Those like
safety
barrier
shields,
screens,
the
yeah.
barriers, right?
I like those things.
Yeah, they're good.
I hope they
You know?
stay after this thing. I kind of feel like it's my own space.
So they saw an opportunity. They
Yeah.
diversified and
that's
into
the
that,
key,
and they
yeah.
said, "Okay, what else can we do? We can do face shields." So they extrude this the shield and they stamp it, and they needed somebody, of course, to make the straps
Yeah.
and this halo part that goes on here.
Yeah.
So they started out with a couple of different designs. These are the first efforts for the straps.
Yeah.
One that goes in like this
Yeah.
together, and we made that in different colors for different customers, and then it got modified for a different design. They went to a baseball strap design like
Yes,
that.
yes.
So we made that, and then this was a little bit loose and it didn't fit quite right. So then they got onto this final version here, and with the halo, it works quite good.
Wow.
So.
Boy, it affects your voice.
Yeah. So we've got some pretty big orders for that
Yeah.
after we've done all
Yeah.
the tooling
Is
and
this mainly
manufacturing.
medical?
Probably frontline services mostly.
Okay, so there could be ambulance,
Yeah.
paramedics,
Even
even the testing
emergency
centers.
response guys.
Even the testing centers, like if they
testing
come in,
centers,
they
yeah.
wear this one. Could use it.
That's right.
Just
Yeah,
for
you
blood
If you watch
contamination?
on the news, I mean, there's various models already out there, obviously. But if you watch on the news, we saw some just last night, and not the ones that we were making.
They were blue.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
okay,
people
yeah.
are wearing them. I mean, you could wear them anywhere that.
I mean, I wouldn't wear it going out to the shops.
No, we saw a lady
We did-
wearing,
I did see
wearing them at
just-
the Woolies.
Again, not ours.
Here in Australia,
At Cornubia.
Cornubia,
Yeah.
she's wearing.
Yeah. So I mean, depending on how,
If they see Ed wearing one of these, they're going to be really terrified
Yeah.
walking
you
down
know,
the street.
depending on how cautious people are.
Well, yeah, and look, I'm not
and they're-
judging. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Maybe President Trump would prefer this because he doesn't want his hair messed
Doesn't
up.
wear,
in
you
it.
know,
Yeah,
people
yeah.
wear face masks.
Maybe this
the
is-
the face shield will do the same
I think
thing.
Biden
but-
would look better in one of them than that black thing he had. But anyhow, so well, I mean, this is great. So they came to you. You already knew them.
Yes.
And they said we have to diversify. So what did you think when that came up? Did you think like great idea?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. So, you know, our sales dropped off in other areas, so we
Yeah.
were quite happy to pick up the slack in this area. So we've actually gotten busier rather than quieter during COVID-19. And part of it has to do with this, you know,
Yeah.
and some of our other stuff that we're doing is picked up, just so happens too. So we're
very thankful,
We're
you
very
know.
thankful
Yeah.
and grateful.
And I mean,
Didn't have to lay anybody off. Didn't have to go on the job seeker or job
Yeah.
keeper.
Oh, that's
anything
good.
like that.
That's
So I
good.
mean,
That's good.
we went to our staff right away,
Yeah.
and we had a meeting with them immediately when it all started. And you know, the first thing we said to them was, we don't want to see anybody laid off.
Yeah.
We will do everything that we can to make
Yeah.
sure that doesn't happen. So no, it's our heart not to do that. And you know, that we were seeking other avenues to get work in the door.
Yeah. So the pressure, the shock, the uncertainty in the beginning, what was the key for you for getting through this?
Oh, prayer.
Well,
Well, your faith.
Yeah.
So you both are people of faith.
Yeah.
Okay. So would you say your faith had a strong part to play?
well, I was very peaceful the whole time. So I would think, you know, there's a lot of verses in the Bible that refers to the peace of the hold that the Holy Spirit brings us. And I don't know, in a time of adversity, I feel quite comfortable and confident most times. I've had my dark days over the last couple of years too, you know, but generally I feel if things are going really haywire, that's when I feel mostly at peace.
Yeah.
When things go a little bit haywire, then I get stressed out.
Yeah.
But when they're going really haywire, I feel very peaceful, and I would contribute that to our faith and to what the Bible promises us with peace in the Holy Spirit.
Right.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to Christians who feel distressed? What advice would you give to those with business who feel distressed? What advice would you give?
Well, I think you just have to work through it, you know. I mean, a lot of times the situation is out of my control, out of your control. So we work with what we can, and we do with what we can, and we put one foot in front of the other. I mean, one at a time.
I think for us, I mean, particularly Jeff is a very analytical person.
Yeah.
I probably go things more from my heart.
Yeah.
So Jeff is very analytical. He'll sit down and he'll analyze the best and the worst possibilities of everything.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes analyzing the worst that can happen is good, because it makes you think, well, okay, if the worst that can happen is da-da-da-da-da-da, well, that's okay.
Prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
Yeah.
You know?
It's good.
And you know, and for me, it's a heart thing. And with everything that we've gone through, I just keep going back. It's like the staff, you know, Moses' staff.
Yeah.
And
what's in your hand?
What's in your hand, and you know, what are the past victories that God has given you?
Yeah.
And I often go back to that and go, you know what, we were in this situation and God did this.
Yeah.
And we were in this situation and God did that. And I often go back to that and go, well, you know, you haven't brought us this far to let us go now.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the other thing you got
that
we lean on, I said it before, we don't lean on our own understanding. We surround people with us that help us get through the day, every day. So we have a fantastic staff that work with us. Crystal's working with us.
That's your daughter.
That's a good. We got Dave that runs the place for us, and Todd's our tool room manager, and a fantastic group there to work with.
Yes.
So we're not doing it ourselves.
Yeah, it's a team.
It's a team effort, and we rely on everybody to get through it, you know.
And it's being able to manage that and pull it together is really important, isn't it?
And we never forget that we don't have the skills. We have the business skills, but we don't have the skills. We can't walk in that factory and do the two of us, because it takes a team of 20.
Well, I don't know where the on button is on the machines. I can't do it.
I can't turn the camera on, so
So, you know, we know that it takes all of us together as a team making it all happen.
Amen. It's such a pleasure having you join us. I can see we've got to do a part 2 just to talk about some other areas. But I am just greatly encouraged by what you do and about the effects you have and about your journey. I think it's an absolute privilege and a joy for Sandra and I to have known you over this time, just seeing what God's done. And I'm just filled with excitement to see what he will do. I know you guys are like travel bugs. You always travel. So I think this is going to be the longest time I've ever seen you. Yeah.
That's on hold.
I think it's on hold for everybody. But this is the longest time I think you've ever been set in one place, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So
we are planning.
Well, yeah, I know. It's just seeing it fulfilled, is it? Thank you so much for joining us.